All right, here today with Sabrina Parr. Thanks for joining. I appreciate your time.
I know it took a while to get me here, but I am so happy to finally be here. I promise you I am.
It did, and I'm thankful for you for you had stuff come up and you kept getting back on it, and we're here today. We're doing it, but I was struggling over Christmas. I want to just tell you this. I was struggling over Christmas, coaching some young athletes, and I was scrolling Instagram one day, and one of your videos came up where you were talking about you didn't want average athletes. I think it's done really well on Instagram, but it connected with me, particularly on that particular day, because I needed to hear that message too. I was going through the same struggles, and just this video of you just talking to these kids just kind of smacked me in the face. I was like, that's exactly what I'm trying to get across here. It was awesome. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Well, thank you for receiving it in the way that I was trying to present it, because there
Mm,
were quite a few people who didn't understand it.
mm.
And I know that I'm not for everyone, and everyone is not for me. So whoever gets it gets it. So I just appreciate you being, a man that fully understand what I was trying to say.
Yeah, well, you know what? You're for me, that's for sure, and my message, because I feel the same way. It's difficult when you've gone through life experiences and you have these experiences, you have this knowledge, and then now you've got to kind of partake it, put it on the kids, and get them to understand it, and try and get to understand your experiences and where you come from, and the
Yes.
message that you're getting across is at times it feels harsh, but it's a reality. I'll give you an example of this. Like I tell my kids all the time, like, as a swim coach and a swimmer, you think you're getting into a pool with 20 other people each day, but what you don't realize is there's hundreds of thousands of kids getting into the same pool on that same day, doing the same thing. You're swimming up and down, like on the track, you're running around a track or whatever it is. You're
Yeah.
doing the same things, but the difference is how are you doing it? That's the separator between
Yes.
good and great, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I talk about all the time, how are you going to separate yourself from the other
Mm,
athletes, right?
mhm.
Because every athlete minimum shows up for practice, like just
Yeah.
minimum. How are you even an athlete on a team if you're not showing up to practice? So if all you're doing is showing up to practice and doing what's asked of you,
Mhm,
how do you separate yourself from everyone else that's doing the same exact thing?
mhm.
And when I ask the athletes these questions, some of them are like, I don't know. Or some of them are like, work harder. Okay, well, what does work harder look like? What does that mean? Because sometimes it doesn't necessarily mean training all day, right? Because you can overdo it. Sometimes it can look like outworking yourself every day during practice, right? Showing up early to practice, maybe leaving a
Mhm.
little later, never taking a rep off, not allowing any one of your teammates to ever beat you during practice. Like giving full effort, sacrificing a little more on the weekends. A lot of these kids, they want to have these grand social lives, which is nothing wrong with that, unless you really want to make it to the next level. That
Mhm.
time needs to be spent recovering, maybe working with a trainer, maybe going to the track by yourself and fixing some, issues that you had in your last race. Whatever it may be, your mind needs to be set on always getting better, always improving throughout the entire duration of the day.
How do you get athletes to understand that, coming from a place of care and love, and without them feeling like you're picking on them? Like it can get misconstrued, that message, kind of. It's like, hey, I want you to understand this on a deep level, and it's hard to hear it, but you need to hear it.
So every athlete is different. Let me start there. And a lot of times, even with my own kids, the way I can communicate with my son is not the way I can communicate with my daughter, right? They just hear me differently. So let's just say, I'll give an example of a young man I had when I started working with him. He was really fast. He was maybe 12 or 13 years old. So he wasn't in high school yet, but he was almost there. He was used to beating everybody in the community.
Mm-hmm.
But at middle school, there's nothing to really win yet. Like you haven't really competed on a high level to have won something tremendous unless you were running AAU or USATF, which at the time he wasn't. So he starts running with me. And he's a football guy, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
naturally a football player who just also ran track. And I remember telling him, like, first day of practice, he was giving me a hard time. Everything I was telling him to do, he was argumentative about it. He didn't like it. Why am I doing that? I was telling him, when you're tired, don't bend down, stand up. Oh, it feels better when I bend down. And I'm just like, but you're not really getting the oxygen in your lungs the way that you
Mm-hmm.
need to. And holding yourself up while you're tired is a sign of strength. It teaches your body how to be strong. If you're falling out and bending over every time you're tired, you're teaching your body it's okay to have this weakness. So he was just
Mm-hmm.
very combative. So at first, I kept removing him from practice. Go home and come back when you're ready to listen. I'm allowing it to be his decision, right? Because I'm not going to force you to do anything. But if you're going to be here under my gun, under my instruction, you have to follow those things.
Mm-hmm.
So when he came back, he knew he had to be ready, right? So, and he probably left for maybe 2 days, and it wasn't an easy process. Like, he was cussing at me and he was very combative and you don't know nothing. And it was a lot, right? I didn't allow it to interrupt the rest of my practice. So he comes back. And when he came back, I was expecting to just listen because you're here on my track. So what's up? And he said, I'm ready to listen. I said, are you ready to work hard? I'm ready to work hard. I said, do you understand what that means? It means I have to listen. I said, why do you think I'm telling you the things that I'm telling you? And he said, I don't know. I said, because I know how fast you can be. I know how much better you can be. But I also understand if you continue to do everything your way, you're going to be in your way. You're never going to reach the level that you want to get
Mm-hmm.
to. So the best way to get to that level is to listen and follow instructions and trust that the things I'm telling you to do is for your benefit. So but when I tell you, this became one of my favorite athletes,
Mm-hmm.
my favorite kids, to the point where during football season, he would call me and be like, hey, Coach Parr, are you coming to the game? Like, just formed a genuine relationship. But you know what that kid was missing? He was missing the love after the discipline. So days that I
Mm-hmm.
would fuss at him, I would also hug on him and love him and pat him on his back and affirm him when he did very well. So it
Right.
wasn't just like I'm beating him down when he messes up. No, I'm also lifting you up when you need it. And I'm also stroking your ego when you need that. And I'm also showing you off when you do really well. So it got to the point where he was almost addicted to the gratification. He was almost becoming addicted to, I want to please her. I want to
Mm-hmm.
make her proud. So let me listen so I can make her proud. And in return of making me proud, he's getting better. So I said all that to say every kid requires something different. As a coach, it's my responsibility to figure out what do they need. And the best way that I figure out what they need is to figure out what's missing. So when I spent some time with him, I learned he's not really getting that affirmation and that love from his mom. She doesn't understand sports. She doesn't understand what he does. The dad is just hardcore and just being, a dad that's just pushing him, pushing him, pushing him. So here's another woman who he doesn't understand anything about. He doesn't know my intentions.
Mm-hmm.
He's not used to his mom giving any type of constructive criticism because she just doesn't understand the sport. So she just kind of stays away from it. So once he gained my trust, I can do whatever I want to, and I can ask of what I need, and he'll be more reluctant. He'll be more open to answering those things and just following my lead.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to spend time with the kid. We don't always see this because I don't get to record everything, but sometimes
Yeah.
I pull the kid to the side. Like, you'll see some videos where it's just me and that kid, but it's other kids there. That's me pulling them to the side, having this conversation with them. Like, hey, what's up? You know, like, how do you expect to do this? Or you need to be doing these things and you're not. So what are we here for? You know, in a low tone. You'll never hear me cussing at the kids. Cause I don't have to do all that to get the point across. Naturally, I'm loud. So I'm probably screaming right now, and I'm not. I'm just a loud person. But really just getting with that individual athlete. Right, you have to get them to tell you what they want to do. So I asked them, what do you do this for? Why do you run track? What are you trying to achieve? Where would you
Mm,
like to see yourself go? And I just listen. And when they tell me these things, I say, okay, do you believe that what you're doing right now, the way you're doing it, is going to help you get there? Most of the time, the answer is no. Okay, so since it's no, do you trust me to help you? Do
mm,
you believe that the things that I'm telling you to do will be for your benefit? Because if you don't have these big goals, and some athletes might just say, well, I just do it for fun, or oh, my mom makes me. Guess what? That's not the athlete for me.
mm,
I think you would be better off on a different team. I think you need to go, and sometimes I make a joke and say, you might just want to go to the Boys and Girls Club so you can just play and have fun. But
mm,
here, we are trying to change our lives and build careers off of our talent and ability. That's what we're trying
mm.
to do here. The best way to do that is to stay focused. If you just want to have fun, go to the playground. And then I leave it up to them to make that decision.
It's just good coaching. It's really good coaching. I'm
Thank
you know,
you.
yeah, sometimes I'm hesitant to put a camera on good coaching. You know, like what made you get that confidence to want to put a camera on it and film it and put it out there? Because, like you said, it's not always going to be received the way you may intend it, and sometimes you're not even going to film all of it. So some of that part of it, I think there is some of
Yeah.
that love, that there is a little bit of love missing, like you said, on some of it does come across as you're pretty hard.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you're really well balanced. So, how'd you make that decision and put a camera on everything?
So it wasn't even my idea. It was a good friend of mine. We've been friends about 20 years. They've known me
Mm,
since college. And one day I was at practice on FaceTime with my friend. And, but I'm still coaching. So I think I said something. I was like screaming at a kid or said, just being myself.
mhm.
And my friend on the phone was like, Sabrina, you should be recording this. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, I don't think people know this is how you really are in like real life. And I'm like, oh, nobody wants to see some lady, black lady screaming and hollering,
Mm.
at the kids. And he was like, no, this is interesting. Like,
Yeah.
you are interesting. And he was like, and you are being yourself. And I don't think people know, because before I was coaching, well, filming coaching, I was still coaching. I just wasn't
Yeah.
promoting it.
Right.
I've been coaching for years. So
Mm.
before that, I was more so just showing my fitness journey. I was working with adults and I was helping adults lose weight. And I was kind of doing the same thing with adults, but more so just promoting my body and my before and afters and my success, and just left the coaching up to, was behind closed doors. So
Yeah.
once he said to me, like, people love authenticity. People would love to see you. I'm telling you. And I said, okay, I'll give it a try.
Mm.
So I just, set my tripod up one
Mm.
practice, and the athletes were like, "Cause are you about to film us?" I was like, yes. So be on your best behavior, and just started looking. And those videos back then, they were really long because I'm just putting the tripod up and we're not really looking at the camera. We're just catching whatever we catch.
Yeah.
And found, a nice little minute, 30-second clip out of that 10 minutes and just posted it. And
Mm.
when I tell you the way people received it, like just all the comments and things I got, I was like, wow, my friend was right. Like, even
Mm.
those who didn't agree with it, they still engaged. They still commented. So that's all you really need is engagement, and then those who were interested in it, we're like, wow, how can I work with you? This is what my kid needs. My kid is
Yeah.
missing this, or I didn't know
Right.
this is how you coach. So, and that started recently, Brett. Like, I just started recording last summer.
Mm. Wow.
And so it hasn't even been a year. Before that, I didn't really do too much recording. I just, put my phone away.
Yeah. Well, like you said, Sabrina, it's really genuine. It comes across as genuine. It doesn't feel staged at all. It feels like you're just talking to the athletes and someone has just got a camera and you don't even know the camera's on, most of the time. So it's good. It's like really pure and it's just good coaching, like you said. And the thing I like about it too is that it falls on the side of people would say maybe hard coaching or real coaching or tough love at times, and I think
Yeah.
there's some of that missing. I think we've gone away from that. Like the reality is, like you said, life is hard, life is tough, it's competitive. Sport is the same way, and these kids need to learn some lessons, and there's just no way around it. You've just got to be real with them.
You want to swim faster? You need Sprint Revolution resistance equipment. This isn't just gear, it's a game changer. Our propellers, power socks, stretch cords, parachutes, and paddles are all designed to build explosive speed and power in the water. If you're serious about taking your swim to the next level, you need the best resistance gear out there. Sprint Revolution, where speed is born.
This was how I was coached, Brett, and
Mm.
this is what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
I had the tendency to kind of run over someone if they let me, because I
Right.
just have a very strong personality. So
Mm.
my coaches did not play, and my coaches knew how to bring the best out of me. And I'm going to share a quick story, because I have this phrase, be a dog, not a puppy. And
Mm.
where that was created from came from my coach. It was almost like the trigger word for me to get me to turn it up a notch,
Right.
and there was one meet. I was a junior in high school. It was the state meet, and our team, we were the contenders to win that year. And this would have been my first state championship that I won. So I happened to be anchoring the 4x8, which for those who don't know, that's 2 laps around the track.
Mm-hmm.
And which means 4 people run 2 laps, right? So this is the first race of the day, by the way. Like, it's the race that jumps off the entire state championship. So now we went into the state meet ranked top 5. Like, we were ready to roll. It was 4 black girls running a 4x8 back then, was very unusual because most black girls were sprinters. It's just what it
Right.
was. So for us to be a foursome of black girls, like, we were really excited, and I was just ready to, like, shock, the state of Ohio. That's where I was at the time. And
Mm.
I get the baton. My team did not deliver, Brett. They gave me the baton in 14th place. 14th. So only the top 8 score.
Mm.
And we got to at least get 4th in order to score enough points to contend for the state championship.
Mm.
So I'm looking around like, I cannot believe my teammates choked the first race of the day and gonna
Mm.
hand me the baton in 14th place. Like, what do y'all want me to do with this baton? What do y'all want me to do in 14th place? And I
Yeah.
have a lap. Everybody else is already approaching their second lap, right?
Mm.
I'm a lap behind. So, I get the baton, and I don't know where my coach is, but I hear him. Because, it's a huge stadium. Our meets were at the Ohio University Stadium, huge stadium. The stadium is packed. But I hear him say to me, "Brina, go be a dog."
Mm.
And because we've had conversations and practice before, and just, I knew what he meant, right? I didn't have to hear him say anything else. When I heard him say that, I turned it on, Brett, and I caught everyone on the track. I caught
Mm.
everybody. And it's crazy because Ted Ginn Jr., who was a 14-year NFL vet, phenomenal
Mhm.
athlete, arguably one of the fastest NFL players, we grew up together. And he was there, and he said, "It looks like there was a string on you and somebody was pulling the string." He said, "It's crazy." He said, "You never slowed down for the
Mm.
whole 2 laps." And I just want to say that when he told me what to be, I knew I could do it and I went to do it. Right?
Mm.
He didn't say do your best and it's okay. You got it. No. He said go be a dog. And because I understood what being a dog meant in reference to an athlete,
Yeah.
resilient, diligent, hungry, strong,
Mm.
I did what needed to be done. And then,
Yeah.
so I caught everybody on the track. And when I crossed the finish line, my teammate who was the third leg, she came and she hugged me and she said to me, she said, I knew you were going to win it for us. And I said, so y'all
You
did
could have
this on
helped.
purpose. Yeah, like I was like, what happened to y'all? Like it's 4 legs, and I ran
Mm.
my fastest. I ran in 207. That was the fastest I ever ran in the 800, and that's pretty fast. If you know anything, there are college athletes and some professionals that are running 208, 207, 206.
Yeah.
And but the thing was, bro, I was able to do that because I trained for it. That wasn't the first time my body ever was tested that way.
Right.
I put my body to the test every day in practice. Every day in practice, I ran as hard as I could, as fast as I could, as long as I could. So when I needed to turn that on, it wasn't unfamiliar. I competed
Mm.
with my teammates every single day. So competing with opponents on the track was not unusual for me. And this is what I want my athletes to do. Do things in practice that you'll need to use in the meets. Because
Yeah.
you'll never be able to tap into something if you've never tapped into it. So that's where
Hmm.
that whole dog versus puppy thing, comes from. That's where I
Well,
created it from.
yeah, it's funny. You may think there are people out there who don't know your story or may not think you've been an athlete previously, but people like me who've been there and done that as well. When we hear you talk, we know that's coming from a place of somebody who's lived it. It's like that person could back up exactly what they're saying. So, like, yeah, there's probably
Yeah.
thousands of people out there that are listening to you, but there's a small percentage who understand that woman has lived that before. So, yeah, don't worry about all the
Yeah.
haters
And
out
I
there.
wish that because someone asked me today, like, do you have any video footage of you running? And it's
Mm,
crazy because back then everything was on VHS and
yeah.
like DVR and
Hmm.
and it's crazy because my coach did give me the VHS and I was like, I don't even know how to play this. I don't know how to transfer this over to, what we use electronically now. But and this made me think like I'm very interested to call Ohio High School Athletic Association to
Yeah.
see what video footage they have because I would love to just see what they have so I could share some of these races and these moments to show them like, no guys, I apply these things that I'm using.
Right.
I
Right.
have had some hard races. I have
Hmm.
2 state championships and I'm not a 6-time All-American for just by accident. You
Right.
know,
Right.
like
Yeah.
I busted my behind,
Hmm.
almost to the point where it became dangerous because I started having injuries. And this is how I learned how to take care of my body because it was a
Hmm.
point in time where I wasn't taking care of my body,
Right.
and I was just grinding and grinding and grinding. So, it just had me thinking like I want to go look and see. I have thousands of articles, right? But like it's nothing like seeing that video footage of you actually getting it done. Because I
Yeah.
can think
Yeah.
back on races and it gives me chills, to think like, wow, I really did that in this race, or that was like a phenomenal moment.
Yeah.
I enjoy it more now than when I was actually competing, to be quite honest.
Yeah. That'd be cool. Yeah. You should pull some of that up and put it on your Instagram. That'd be cool to
I
see.
know
So,
I gotta do some digging,
mm,
some research, and try to. I don't know
yeah.
if the libraries have archives. I don't know how that works, but I'm gonna look into it and find some stuff.
Yeah. I wrote down a couple of coaching questions just so people listening can kind of take some notes here as well. What do you think the
Great.
difference between hard work and work ethic is?
So I think hard work is what you do, and work ethic is what you have.
Right.
So you have to apply the ethic, right? Because
Yeah.
you can have low ethic, no
Hmm.
ethic. So that will never result in working
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
And even with me, when I made the statement, I don't like to work with average athletes.
Mm,
An average athlete can be a phenomenal athlete on paper. Like they can run the times, they're exceptional, they win, and have no work ethic.
Right.
That's what
Yeah.
I mean by average. It's the mentality of the athlete. So you, in order to be able to work hard, you have to have the ethic for it, right? That's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
difference to me.
Yeah, it's kind of like someone that's just born with a natural talent, but kind of wastes it. They come to the track, once a week or something, and do something, but then the rest of the time they're just messing around, wasting their talent, and that to me is
Correct.
that's tragic. When you see somebody just wasting their talent.
Yes, and that's a person that doesn't have work ethic.
Yeah, exactly. How do you influence and affect disciplining kids? Like discipline is something that you need to have consistently. So how do you try and influence and affect that so somebody understands that discipline needs to be part of their everyday life?
So I explain things when I tell them what I'm telling them. So for example, I don't just give them an assignment or an instruction without explaining to them
Mm,
why I'm having them do it. So
right.
for example, I have a couple videos where they see kids doing push-ups. That is me disciplining them for a mistake that they made, right? Or an instruction that they didn't follow.
Hmm.
No, I'm not doing that to be mean. I am doing that to teach them to remember that this mistake will cost you.
Yeah.
So, for example, and I learned this from my coach, because in swimming in almost every sport, there's a start gun, there's a
Hmm.
whistle, there's something that indicates when you can move, right?
Yeah.
So if you move before when you're allowed to move, you false started. The race is over. So I implement that in practice as soon as we start the drills. And instead of just saying, oh, you moved, it's okay, keep going. No, you moved. You owe me push ups or you owe me burpees or something. Because I feel like when you punish your body, it will remind you, oh, I don't need to do that. We don't really want to feel pain, unnecessarily. So if I give them a little bit of pain for an error that they've made, it teaches them to be disciplined enough to avoid that mistake, right? And a lot of
Right.
these mistakes are just mental mistakes. They're just mentally weak, or they have some physical weaknesses that they need to work on to get stronger, especially
Hmm.
when using blocks. Blocks takes a level of patience and strength at the same exact time. You have to be patient and exert a lot of energy in the same moment.
Hmm.
You have to be disciplined to be able to do that. And so we just work on it. And it's important because it will cost them. It literally will cost them finishing a race and starting a race. Literally
Yeah.
making one small mistake.
Right.
So I just
Yeah.
enforce it very early on, day one from the beginning. I don't wait to enforce it. I do it the moment they begin training with me.
You and I both want confident athletes. We want competitive athletes. You say you want a dog, not a puppy. How do we get a group of athletes collectively thinking that way and working together without feeling like they're attacking each other? Like they're still teammates, right? Like you want them to be competitive with each other, you want them to lift each other up, but at the same time, you don't want them to be pulling each other down and feeling like they're attacked or whatever. You want it to be in a competitive environment, but you want it to be healthy. So how do you have the balance between the two?
It's tough, Brett. And there's always one kid that may not cooperate, right? There's always one. But on
Yeah.
average, I make them feel like a team. So I make them do everything together. So even when one person makes a mistake, guess what? The whole team is getting punished.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're not mad at anybody. You're mad at everybody. Because,
Hmm.
hey, I tell them that's your teammate. They keep false starting. Go talk to them. Help them out. Figure it out.
Right.
Because if they did this in the relay, it doesn't matter. None of you guys can run. You don't get to say, oh, we skipped them. They messed up. No, everybody gets punished by one mistake.
Yeah.
And I do have activities where I make it competitive fun, right? So they're competing, but they're having fun at the same time. I do a lot of relays in practice. And this is when I had my own team. Now I'm just training athletes. So it's a little different because we'll have different age variations and, there's guys and there's girls. But so I do have different activities where it's competitive fun, but there's an incentive, right? So, all right, whoever wins, this your last one. You know, if you lose, you got another one. That
Mm.
forces everybody to compete because everybody wants to be done, right? Or if I have someone who's just not getting with the program today, right? I make them start ahead of the pack. And I just say, don't get caught. And so it's one thing to just run behind everyone because you got an attitude and you don't feel like it. It's another thing to put them in the front and force them to not be caught. It just triggers something differently in their mind, you know.
Yeah.
Or I put a baton in their hand and we do a relay activity where everything is a relay. Naturally, people love relays, so it forces them to compete with each other and still get the workout done. Um, but just also showing them what happens a lot of times is, let's just say there's somebody really fast on the team. No one believes they can beat this person.
Yeah.
I teach them how to compete with the person that's faster than you. And I teach them how to do it by showing them this is how you get better by racing this person. You know, and sometimes I have to just break that down in different workouts, Brett. Like sometimes I have to say, the hell with the schedule I had today, and I need to change everything to get with this person's mindset and fix it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but that will change. Like sometimes my workouts, they just switch depending on the personalities that come to practice that day. You know,
Yeah.
I don't mind switching things up to benefit the entire practice.
Right.
Right. So, and it could just be, hey y'all, this person gonna run by themselves today and we're gonna cheer her on. Like that may just be the task. They're feeling
Mm-hmm.
a little down, they're feeling discouraged. Make them run, and while they're running, you are cheering. Your job today is to cheer for this person. Well, that builds, you know, unity, that
Yeah.
builds sisterhood, brotherhood, and it also shows them that, hey, if I run a little faster, I run better, my team loves me, my team enjoys it, they're going to root me on, and it's kind of like a it's addictive, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
and it's contagious. So one person does it, the next person wants to do it, but all I'm saying is you got to be creative.
Mm.
You got to be creative based on the personality of the athlete, based on what the struggle is. You want them to fight against each other and still love each other. So I have to do that equally. I have to be the example of not showing favoritism,
Yeah.
right? Like not overly, you know, encouraging someone or discouraging
Right.
someone. Even my own kids, I have to be fair to everyone, no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that you know it's a physical and a mental thing, and you're working on both of those things at the same time. That's good
Yes.
coaching again. Let me ask you this
Thank you.
last question. I know you're on your lunch break, so I appreciate your time here. How do you get kids and even parents these days to understand process? Like things take time. You know, it takes time to build speed. It takes time to build strength. You know, people are going to develop at different stages of their you know, teenage years, things like that. So how do you get them to understand process?
So I have a couple things. So one, I do certain drills that show them the progress. Okay.
Yeah.
So and we measure it. We measure progress within
Mm.
practice, right? And I'll give an example, you know, with my daughter. Years ago, a couple years ago, she was very new to track and field, and she used to be discouraged by looking at other people's times on paper that
Yeah.
she hadn't written yet.
Yep.
So, which to me, I was like, girl, that means nothing, but to her, it did. It was a big deal to brace someone whose time was faster than her.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So we're at indoor nationals. The girl who had the fastest time, and I think they were nine. They were 9 years old at the time. She's now 12. And the fastest girl ran like a 28 in a 200, right? My daughter had only ran in a high 29s. So she was already very discouraged. So what I said to her was, I said, you know, you can beat her, right? And she was like, oh, there's no way. She runs so fast. She's already ran in 28. I've never ran in 28. So what I then broke down to her was, do you understand the way that we train? The days we train, the workouts we do, you have trained your body to race anyone. If you just race her, don't worry about the time. Just race her to the best of your ability. I promise you, you will run 28 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not asking you to do anything else. I'm not giving you a race strategy. just from the time the gun goes off, just race her and see what happens. She ends up winning, and she ends up running 28-2. So I use that moment as a teaching point. Now, do you see that when you train your body, it then can translate to you racing whoever you need to race? Let's
All right.
continue this for the rest of the season. So I didn't have any issues out of her anymore as far as times and effort and practice, because I taught her your effort translates over to the meets as
Right.
success, as wins. So if you are working hard, and I use meets sometimes to measure where their progress
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So, and even in practice, I do a 60-second drill, I do a 50-second drill. Let's see how far you get every week within this drill. If you get faster and further each week, then the process is working, right? And then sometimes I have them study, Brett. I tell them to go on YouTube. Y'all want to be on your phones all day. Go
Yeah.
on YouTube and study an athlete. Read up,
Mm-hmm.
look at their timeline. See where they started, see where they were in college, see where they were in high school, see where they are now. Look and see the years it took them to get to where that is. We all know Quincy Jones now. Quincy Wilson now. 5 years ago, nobody was paying attention to Quincy. That doesn't mean he wasn't training and working hard. Go and
Yeah.
look and see what he was doing.
Yeah.
Read, scroll down, and I have them
Yeah.
do this, and they come back and me and say, they was slower than me, Coach Parr. Exactly. They just kept working.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
couldn't
You're
believe he
right.
was running 60s in the four. And I said, yeah, he was running 60s. Now he's running 44s.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
but he kept working, he kept working. So I show them how to teach themselves how to do some of this. I show them
Yeah.
that the work conditions your body, and then going to study helps condition your mind to say, oh, okay, if they were slow and I'm slow, I can get faster. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
Yeah. Yeah.
just those are just a few of the tricks that I use with some of my athletes.
No, I love it. Well, listen, good coaching is good coaching. It translates, and you could be a swim coach, you could be a football coach, whatever it is, just good coaching. So, for those that want to see more of what you're doing, you're on Instagram at Get Up to Par,
Yes.
Parr. I've got an Australian
Yes.
accent, by
And
the
I
way. I'm
also
Australian.
It's okay. And then I also just recently I started working with coaches. I have a program called Coach to Coach Training. So
Nice.
those coaches out there, it's an amazing service. It's virtual. We just really get it in for 2 hours. And I just teach you some things. I answer questions. I help you
Nice.
kind of dissect some of the athletes that you have now. So I really suggest some of these, this service to coaches out there that just want to up their game, right?
Yeah.
And then
Nice.
obviously, I'm working with athletes every week here in Houston. I also have an online training program. So the way this works is the athlete fills out a form, very detailed form. It lets me know exactly where they are. And then I create a customized 6-week training program for that
Mm,
person based on what they have access to. All right. Emphasis on access, because everyone doesn't have access to these facilities. So I
yeah.
teach you how to get top training right where you're at. If this is your basement, your backyard, the street, your neighborhood track, whatever that is, and really get it in. And this is for athletes that want to focus on getting faster and stronger, right?
Hmm.
That maybe just be struggling with a few things. So that's another option I have. And then also, I'm always open to coming out and doing speaking engagements, masterminds. I love to just spend the whole day and just teach things that I've learned, hear from other people, trying to help them strategize within their own programs. And just, the point of all of this is to help our athletes get to the next level and have some great careers. So that's all I'm
Yeah.
about. So yes, all of that can be found on my website, www.sabrinaparr.org.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah. Well, you've helped me. I'm an Olympic athlete and coach, and you're helping me. So I appreciate it. It's
Thank you, Brett. I
awesome.
am honored to even hear that. I was so happy when you even
Yeah.
contacted me, because I'm trying to get in these spaces with other athletes and,
Yeah.
combine myself with other coaches that are like-minded, and you
Hmm.
gave me the opportunity. So I'm very, very grateful.
Yeah. No. Thanks for the time. Like you're a really powerful force, and we need more of that. So thanks a lot, Sabrina. I appreciate it today.
Thank you, Brett.
All
Anytime.
right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
What's up? This is Nate from Swim Nerd. Just letting you guys know about Swim Nerd Timing. We now offer the most affordable, the easiest to use timing system in the world. We got it all. Starters, harnesses, buttons, touchpads, scoreboards, your one-stop shop for all your timing needs. Check us out at swimpractice.com.